Hi guys, welcome to the tutorial of the cell shader. I show you how you can use this asset. So let's get started. In the blueprints folder you will find the BP directional and skylight manager blueprint. Just drag and drop into your scene. Select your light sources and click refresh light. Now I place a sphere into the scene. I scale it and navigate to the materials folder cell shader, and you will find three master materials here. Now I will create a new instance from the M cell shader one. I open it up and let's just apply to the mesh here. And you can have a few options. I will go through everything with you guys, so I'm just turning off a few things for now, and I'll come back to it later. So you can change the base color of your material. I implemented this hue shift slider with the desaturate slider as well. I'll get back to these two parameters in a moment. If you scroll down, there is a section called procedural bands. I enable everything for now. You can increase the band numbers, as you can see. You can offset these values if you want. You can soften the transition between the bands, and you can have a few options here. If I select my light source and change it, let's say, to a red pinkish color, and I give something blue to my skylight, then as you can see nothing really happened. It's because you have to click play or you can select the directional skylight manager and refresh the editor values here. So I set it back this to white. Now the pinkish color comes from my directional light and this blue from my skylight. So what you can do here is increase the directional light color and intensity with this multiplier here. Color fill means that if you reduce this, it will no longer use the directional light's color, as you can see here. You can basically blend it back to white. Directional light blend is used for if you add another directional light to your scene, and let's say this is green, it's movable. In your light manager you define this newly added directional light and update it. See, nothing happens, and the bands are generating from this directional light up here. As you can see, the direction of the bands, but with this blend you can set it back and forth. So imagine if your pink light is a sun and the green light is a moon, so you can transition between the two directional lights this way. You can have a skylight intensity multiplier just as you can have a directional light. So if it's 0, it's black. You can see how it affects the whole mesh. This color, this blue color, you can enable ambient color mask, and this way only the darkened part of the mesh will be colored with the skylight. So as you can see, this blue tone is now completely masked out and only visible where the mesh otherwise would be black. You can override the light color. You find two boolean here, light from direction light color and ambient from skylight color. If you turn these two off, you can give a custom color to your mesh, which is not depending on your light's color at all. So as you can see, I have a grayish ambient color, but I can set it to anything, and the light color is not affecting it anymore, but I just set it back as it was. And you have a boolean here, bending is procedural or texture. If you turn it off, you can set up a bend ramp texture. I give you 4. This means that the bending will be controlled by these textures. As you can see, this is a black and white texture, half black, half white. But if I would say add, like it's half black and the quarter gray and the quarter white, then you can get this, and you can still offset this texture as well, as it was a procedural bend. Okay, so the next thing is called rim light, and this is what it says. It's a rim light. As you can notice, it clips where the shadow starts. This is because there is a boolean called rim shadow mask, and if it's turned on, then the shadow area of the mesh will be masked out from this rim light function. If I turn it off, then you can see the whole mesh is covered with this rim light, and you can have a few options here, like the intensity. You can change the hue of the rim light, the offset, how much is covered, and of course the smoothness. If you enable the rim mask, then you can have a rim threshold parameter, so you can further adjust how the rim light is affecting your mesh, but I set back everything. There is a boolean called rim light color from base color. Now the base color is white, so this means the rim light will be white, but if I change back the lights to its original color, don't forget to update in the editor, and as you can see, the base color is white, and the rim light color is from the base color, so it's also going to be white. But if I change it to any other color, you can see the rim light will change as well. If you don't want to do this, if you or if you don't want this effect, you can set a unique rim light color for the rim light alone. And now I can change it something greenish. You can see it's the base color is this purple pink, and the rim light is green. Okay, so the next thing is the specular. This dot right here. You can change the intensity, you can change the hue. This color also comes from the base color because it's checked. You can offset this specular and you can smoothen it. There is a boolean called hair specular. This will replace your regular specular with hair specular. You can change the offset. Oh, and there is a hair texture. Hair texture you can use. You can set your own. I provide you with a few. You can change the tiling here. You can change the width of the specular, the smoothness, and the distortion amount. This texture will be used for the distortion, and you can distort it how you like. I change it back to regular specular for the time. Okay, so I just delete this sphere and I place this statue mesh in the editor and apply our material to it. So as you can see, this is how it looks right now. In the base color you can have an ID map. If you enable it, then an ID map texture will appear here. So you can color every part of the mesh separately. Here, red channel, green channel, blue channel, alpha channel, you can see this map contains red, green and blue, so I'm going to use red, green and blue channel for it. And you can see this is colors the body, the wings and the cloth. And this mesh has a normal map, so let's enable it. Enable normal. If I scroll down for the normal map, I'll search for the statue normal. Here it is. I just disable specular so we can see it better. And adjusting the colors a little bit so we can see it more clearly what's going on. Okay, so normal map, I can adjust normal map intensity. If it's 0, it will use the mesh vertex normals to generate these bands. But if I apply a normal map and increase the intensity, you can see how the folds are much more defined now. And it will look better if you use a normal map with this cell shader. And you can also have a detail normal map, which is an additional normal map. I provide you a few normal map as well. There is this rock one, and you can change the tiling and also the intensity. Okay, the next thing is metallic roughness. This is a standard PBR workflow, so if the roughness is 0, then your mesh will be shiny. If it's if the metallic is 1, then it will be a metal material, and so on and so forth. But you can define a metallic and roughness map, and these parameters will become a multiplier for that map. So if I scroll down, as you can see, I have a metallic roughness map I just applied. So the metallic map is in the red channel and the roughness map in the green channel. And you can tweak the roughness with this multiplier, but it will use the map as well. So inline, I enable it. This is meant to simulate or it's like an outline, but the opposite of that. You can decrease the offset and introduce a little bit of lines here, like if it was a contour or something. You can change the smoothness of it, and of course the intensity. You can change the color here. So this is the inline. Okay, so the next thing is the cube map. If you enable it, you can have a cube map. You can increase the intensity, and as you can see, this will give your mesh a very metallic look. You can change the color, the hue, everything I just mentioned before. Cube mask is, you can see the cube map is now applied to the whole mesh, and with the cube map mask you can mask out the shadowed parts. And as you can see now, the cube map is only applied to the front of the mesh, not to the back. Add metallic map to cube map. If it's enabled, then the intensity will be multiplied with the roughness map. If you enable it, if you enable the metallic map, you can add this mask to the cube map as well. So only the metal parts of your mesh will receive this cube map, which is very metal looking effect. And after that, the cube map intensity will become a multiplier of your metallic map. Okay, the next thing is pattern. If you enable the pattern, you can define a pattern texture down here, and now you can see it's quite big. You can increase the tiling, like so. You can change the offset and the smoothness. You can change the color of the pattern, the intensity, and as you can see, it's a screen space effect. But if you want it to use in UV space, you can do it with this boolean if you set it true. Now the effect is in UV space. Okay, the next thing is going to be point lights, but before that I just want to show you what this base color output intensity and base emissive output intensity means. So let's see if I place a point light here and give it red color. Then as you can see, it's affecting the mesh, and if I place a cube here like so, as you can see, the mesh is able to receive shadows from the light. And if the base output intensity, if the base color output intensity is 0, and this is 1, this means this is purely an emissive shader which won't receive any light data and won't receive any shadow data. And if I go to the buffer visualization base color, if I start to increase the base color output intensity, you can see the base, it's basically the base color channel. And if your mesh is affecting both the base color and the emissive, then you can have the point light affecting the mesh and the box cast shadow here. But the shadow strength is depending on how emissive is your material is. So if I start to decrease the emissive, then the shadow will become stronger. So this way you can, control how strong your shadows are. And also the point light is affecting your mesh. But I want to show you how you can use the point light to generate these shade bands on your mesh. All you have to do is go to your blueprints, and there is a BP called the Point Light Manager. Just place it in your scene, and in this manager you will find two parameters. One is cool distance and cool fall off. If you hit play, I haven't enabled the point light in the shader. As you can see, the point light is affecting my mesh right now, but it's too big. So you can have a few parameters how the shader will react to point lights. You can change the point light intensity. This is a multiplier. You can change the offset, which will reduce the radius from the point light. You can increase or decrease the band numbers of the point light, and you can smoothen it if you want. let's just set it back to white. Don't use ID map. Set the base color something darker so we can see much better the light. So if I duplicate this and for this new light I give some green color, let's say, if I hit play, you can see the green color is affecting this, the blue, the green affecting this, the red affecting this part, and in the middle it's yellow, because if you blend red and green you'll get yellow. And you can always come back to your shader and affect the offset. So this is how you can use point lights. The manager will ask for the point light radius, color, intensity. So you just place it and automatically finds it from the player camera within this radius you just set here. So if I hit play, you can see the point lights are affecting my mesh, but if I start moving backwards, it slowly fades out, fades in, fades out, and you can increase this fade out distance by this number and the fall off by this number. So if I set it to, let's say, 3000, it play again. Now I have to go much further before the lights start to fade out. The only limitation of the system is you can only have 25 point lights within this radius just set. I find 1500 is quite good. So let's talk about the outlines. Okay, you can have two type of outline. One is for static mesh and one is for skeletal mesh. This is a static mesh, so I just select it and add a new component, start typing outline, and you can have SK, and SM, which is skeletal mesh and static mesh. This is a static one, so I select the SM one. This will apply this outline material to it. So if you hit play, or rather simulate, you can see the outline in action. You can change the thickness of it, the colors, the intensity, and if I were start to go away from this light, as you can see, the line shrinks. It gets smaller and smaller, and I can barely see right now. But if you toggle this boolean parameter, keep outline over distance, then as you go away it will keep the outline width. You can have an animation for the outlines. This is pretty straightforward. there is an animation wavelength, which if 0 is start pulsating, and if the outline thickness is 0, and let's say the wave amplitude is 5, then you can have a bigger pulse, bigger thickness when it pulses. But if I start to add, like, this is 2, this is 2, then it never really goes away totally. I can increase the wavelength, which will give you this result. And if I set it like something like 1, you can have this blobby feeling of the vertices. You can change the speed here and the direction of the animation. So yeah, that's it basically. Okay, for the outline, as you can see, the outline is depending on the mesh vertex normals. So if it's split, then the outline will be split as well, which is not really great. So the solution for that, if you select this box, and we can see the component on it, there is a custom outline mesh, which is just the box as the base mesh, but the vertex normals are smoothed on this box. So if I enable tangents, or rather normals, as you can see, the green is pointing inwards, but it's not split like yeah, as you can see now it's split in 3 direction. That's why the outline goes like this. That's why it breaks. And I just imported a smoothed box. If you use 3ds Max, just one smooth group the whole object. If you blender, just right click on it and shade smooth, and that's it. You can see 2 other parameter here. Apply to material index if you have a multi-material object. So here is my tree. You can see it has 2 elements, and one is outlined with this blue outline here. And if the apply to all material index would have been checked, then the tree bark and leaves also receive the outline. But the leaves are actually using the outline foliage type, which is useful for foliage obviously, and not really good for tree barks. That's why I disable to apply to all material, and the material index is 0, and the 0 index is actually the leaves here. So only the leaves receive this blue outline. As you can see, you can have 3 types of outline. One is completely opaque, one is transparent, and one for the foliage. You can find the master materials here in the outline folder. and I want to show you the differences between the MCL shader and MCL shader transparent. So as you can see, these are transparent materials. If I open up the material instance for it, you'll find a completely new section called opacity, base texture alpha to opacity if you are using base texture, and the base texture is enabled, then you can use the base texture's alpha to be multiplied to the opacity, and this is like a master opacity slider. You can set the values as you like. There is refraction. One thing about refractions is you don't go below 1, so it's always like 1.2, 1.3, and so on and so forth. I hope I covered everything. If you have any more questions, please ask on my Discord or write me an email. And thanks for watching.